nothing lasts forever. Where there is a boom, there is always a bust. I ended that year surpassing $1 million in revenue. Okay, I am heading straight into part 2. I was spending a minute right before I hit record to go over my notes from 2022 through 2025. And I got through 2022 and I hit 2023, and then I was like instantly exhausted because that is when it hits the fan. So, continuing on with 2022, which now feels like ages ago, feels like a different chapter because it was definitely a continuation, like a leveled up continuation of 2021. Creatively, we really hit our stride. I think in the previous video, in the part 1, I mentioned Lupe moving to New York, which actually didn't happen until 2022, I think, early 2022. But once she made that move, that's when our creative like really, really leveled up because we did some of my favorite creative to this day and my favorite product to this day. We did the Firestarter collection. We did the Dreamscapes collection, where we launched our Butterfly Claw, which is one of our best sellers now, and our Horse Girl clip, which also has been so popular. And we also did a lot of fun artist collaborations. We collaborated with a lot of just like smaller artists that we just loved and had them do their thing with some of our imperfect product, our oopsies. We did a collab with Sunday School. We launched in Nordstrom. Like 2021 definitely felt like we were just trying to figure out the basic things. But 2022 felt like, okay, now we could take the training wheels off and continue to just like refine. We still tried a lot of things, mostly because I just throw out all sorts of crazy ideas and my team, for the most part, goes along with it. The team definitely continued to grow. I think our team was the biggest in 2022 than it has ever been. I think the size of our team definitely peaked in 2022. I hired an operations director because I no longer wanted to do paperwork. Plus, at a certain point, I knew I was doing a disservice to the business by running ops. I promoted one of our shipping specialists to a shipping manager. I hired a graphic designer and a social media assistant, and probably a couple more part-time shipping people. We actually started a podcast that fall called Chunks Chats. And we initially started it because we wanted to talk about production and manufacturing more and in a more nuanced way, because it's really, I was finding it so hard to really talk about just all the nuances that we have to consider kind of practically and ethically with overseas manufacturing. It's really hard to talk about all of that in like 30-second clips. And I also really love talking about creative entrepreneurship. And so that's what the podcast was for. But I remember like doing the intro to that podcast, which you can still listen to, and I still think is pretty good. But I remember like saying the intro every time, saying like, I started this business out of my house as a one-woman show, and now we have a team of 15 people or something. And I remember being so proud of that and being like, yes, our team is like so big and we're growing so fast. And it's just so telling that I used the size of my team as a measurement of how successful the business was, which in fact is not a good ruler for that, FYI. We also continued to do really fun, also very tiring pop-ups in Seattle and New York. Oh, and continued to do craft shows, which is always very fun and very valuable to our customers and have conversations with them. But just the logistics of doing events, it's so exhausting. I mean, everything in general was just becoming harder to manage, I think, because we were still trying to do a lot, but then the team was also more to manage too. The team was growing, and now, like, there were layers, not everyone was just reporting to me. There were people who were reporting to other people who were reporting to me. And like, there is something that happens when you go from like a team of like 4 people to a team of like 10 plus people. Your systems no longer work, your communication methods kind of break down, and you have to find a new way to get things done. Then just like all the interpersonal stuff too, like making sure that everyone is still feeling good and motivated and empowered in their role is actually also very hard. So much harder than I would have imagined. And I really felt the pressure, or not, I don't want to say the pressure, but the obligation to show up as a leader who could confidently manage people, manage a team, and make sure that like we had a good work culture. But at the same time, I was definitely feeling less excited to go into work because I was just at that point, as our team got bigger, in a lot of ways, it was great because I could hand off things that I didn't want to do, but then I had to find something else to do. And the thing is, I'm not one of those creatives who can just be happy sitting there doing my thing all day, every day. Like, my art practice is definitely not like that. I'm much more of like an ideas person than a craft person. I love starting things and handing it off to someone else because as soon as I learn the thing and figure out how to do it, I get bored. That's the point where I get bored and I no longer want to do it, which is like the opposite problem, I feel like, of most business owners who find it very difficult to hand off responsibility. But I don't know, I have the opposite problem. I was too easy delegating things. I didn't have enough discernment with my hiring yet, was still new to hiring. And then once I hired someone, I gave them a lot of freedom, which at the time I thought was a good thing. But people need structure and clarity and understand how to be successful in their role. It was just so different from the way that I operated. And it was like, it was just a learning lesson, like a really experiential learning lesson of like, oh yeah, not everyone is like me. I personally like the challenge of being thrown into the deep end and just figuring it out. But I've realized for most people, that is scary. So, yeah, that was definitely something I learned during that process of just hiring, onboarding, delegating, because I would just be like, you got it? Good. All right. See ya. Honestly, I think that I still like throwing people in the deep end because more often than not, people learn how to swim. Like, it might be scary being pushed into the deep end, but like, how cool is it to learn that like you actually can swim? I feel like that is so empowering. But again, that is me. And so I had to realize like, okay, not everyone operates like me. So that's what was going on in the business. On the side, in my personal life, I continued to go down my spiritual rabbit hole, which I had fallen down during the pandemic, not even intentionally, like by accident. But now I was willingly falling down that rabbit hole and I was like obsessed. But in secret. It still felt like something that I needed to hide or I didn't want to tell people because I know how it can come across. A lot of the woo woo stuff is really out there. And I didn't really know anybody else who thought about those things, believed in those things. I was really getting into it. And I was really wanting community in that space and I didn't know where to go. I had a therapist that I had just started working with who was Korean. I always seek out therapists who are like me, women who are Asian. This therapist was Korean and she was also like deeply spiritual. So she kind of helped me figure out like what to do. I don't know. Like I didn't know what to do with this information but I knew it was something that was changing my life. Oh yeah, 2022. That was the year of retreats. I attended this yoga meditation retreat through my yoga studio like at the beginning of the year and that was my retreat. That was my gateway drug to retreats. It was so amazing that I was like, okay, sign me up for everything. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I did so many crazy things that year, but I came out of it with community. Like I went to that yoga meditation retreat. I think after that, I did an ayahuasca retreat in Oregon, which was fucked up. And you can let me know if you want to hear about that, but it was not good. It was actually, it was very traumatizing. And I don't get traumatized easily. I did this other like spiritual retreat in Sedona, which was interesting. I was like very hesitant to go because I knew that like everyone that would be at that retreat was very steeped in that spiritual world. You know what I mean? They just have the look. They are obviously of that tribe of the spiritual hippie tribe, which I still don't really identify with. So it felt really awkward, but also I met some really cool people. And then I also did another psychedelic retreat too. That was kind of like self hosted with people I'd met throughout the year. And that was much better. And it was actually like one of the most profound experiences of my life. So yeah, I went fully down that plant medicine path and have a lot of stories to tell for another time. So 2021, I would say the wins from that year was just all the personal work I did. Yeah. Whoa. Like this was such an opening of this other part of my life. And it was really exciting to me. It was like finding my long lost something. Like it was like, oh my God, like how have I never come across this before, you know? That felt really great. But at the same time, I was spending so much of my time doing that I was feeling more and more removed from my business, which at the time I didn't mind. I think I actually needed a little bit of a break and to kind of like do something else for a bit. But the challenge of that was the flip side of taking that break and removing myself a little bit more from the business was that I was feeling more and more disconnected. And I think, especially as I was like learning about myself and I was going through such big personal changes, the disconnect started to feel larger and larger. And I could feel it and didn't really know what to do about it. It was starting to like really feel like a weight. And I didn't quite know at the time that it was really just like misalignment. Like I was growing this way and my business was still going this way. And the gap in between was becoming larger and larger. And it was like definitely kind of zapping my motivation. I didn't quite know what to do once I delegated out. And I gave other people so much freedom because I didn't trust myself. And it just like fed this loop of like me delegating things out and, giving everyone the green light to have a lot of freedom, which I thought was a good thing at the time. But I realized I was really doing it because I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust my instincts. I didn't trust my skills. I didn't trust my ability to lead people. It was starting to become a tricky time. The big takeaway from that year, probably do more research if you're going to sign up for a psychedelic retreat. I think also just like the concept of finding the sweet spot is something I think about a lot when it comes to growing a business. I've realized that this also pertains to life, but also in business. Like we're always just trying to balance on this tightrope of doing too much or too little, or being too in it or too out of it, or giving people too much freedom or too much like direction and micromanaging. There's just like this constant dance of finding the sweet spot. And I really started to feel the tension of how I was moving in and out of my business. Okay, so 2023. Whew, let me just, I need to prepare for this one. How do I even talk about this year? I feel like this 2023 needs its own episode, but I will try my best. So, at the beginning of 2023, I like willed myself to find something to light me up again about this business. Like I had to like find some new source of inspiration. Things were still going really well. Like I feel like our creative and our marketing, it was still leveling up. Like our photo shoots were so good. We were getting to this point of like, okay, how do we refine? How do we rebuild our systems with like this new, bigger team? That always takes a lot of work. How do we streamline our marketing? How do we make all of our marketing like more effective? I feel like the buzz was still super strong. It felt like every month we could spot ourselves in a new Netflix show, which was always really cool to see. A lot of celebrities were wearing chunks, and like not because of us. We weren't spending a dime on any kind of like PR or anything, but Kendall Jenner would wear a checker claw a lot, and someone from Blackpink was always wearing it. So, in a way, it kind of felt like we had a reputation at this point as a brand, like as a legit brand. We also did some really cool collabs that year. We did one with Maine by Jen Atkin, who's the celebrity stylist. We did AAGC, Asian American Girl Club, which is obviously like a community that speaks to me, and that customer base showed up so hard for it. We did a collab with NPR, which was probably my favorite, probably might be my all-time favorite because how funny. Yeah, so things were good, but also, my mind was already like going to the future. Like, what can this be? I had been thinking about that for like a year or two now, ever since things started popping off. That was the year, I feel like 2022, 2023 was like the year of fundraising. It was like the year of like all these beauty brands like getting funded and like scaling really fast and making these huge exits. It was like it was like pantsuit era, you know what I mean? So I definitely was inspired by just like everything I was seeing around me for sure. And there was like a lot of brands that I was friends with. Like I was Instagram friends with this like cohort of especially like Asian owned brands that really blew up during that time. Like Fly by Jing and Omsom and Imi, and a lot of food, a lot of Asian food. For the most part, like they were all doing this. They were all seeking out investment to scale their businesses and to make an exit. So, yeah, I felt very inspired by that. And at that point, I was like, who would buy chunks? Like, it's not like solving a problem. It's not like a business that, like a super innovative business that is like solving a practical product problem. But, it doesn't really matter. If a business is profitable and it can continue to run, it is valuable. So I was like, maybe I should do that. And I started down that path of like, at that point, my ops director and I were like putting all the data together. I was putting a lot of energy into just learning about this path. Like, how do I do this? And I think it like reinvigorated me back into the business. Like, I was really excited and motivated. And again, it was like very fun to learn something new. So I was doing that, say, like early spring. And I got to this point where like we were ready. We had kind of refined our pitch deck to a pretty good point. I had by that point like gotten a lot of advice, talked to investors, figured out like how to present chunks to potentially get investment. And as I was about to really make that dive, then Aries season happened again. Both all the great things in my life and all the insane things in my life happened during this season. So April rolls around, and my husband of 10 years, our marriage had been hard for a long time, but we finally decided to split up, which was obviously it was really sad. I was at the same time relieved and also devastated. We had uh I think he was 7 at the time, a 7-year-old son, and the thought of one of us not being with him, with me not being with him like all the time, I couldn't understand what that would look like. It just felt very sad. I think fortunately both of us knew it was the right thing to do. There wasn't a ton of anger. There was just like sadness and like, okay, what are we going to do now? And then a week later, part of our house burned down like a 5 alarm fire. Okay, it's not like part of our house, but we had this detached garage in the back of our house, like literally like 20 steps away from our house, that just randomly caught on fire one night. And fortunately, me and my ex, we were like up, like watching TV or something, and like heard a pop and realized that the garage was burning down. It was insane. I've never seen anything like it. Like it escalated so fast. It like melted the whole side of our like the main house. It was insane. And then like a week after that, I moved out into my own apartment. I started praying. Like I started praying to whoever, like my guides, my ancestors, the angels, God, I don't know. I was just like putting it out into the universe like this is a very unstable time in my life, so please help me, like help guide me, help take care of my family and my health and my business. Those were the three things that I asked for help with. And wow, that is literally when like my magical life started. Okay, so you might not see it as magical, but I fully started to believe in just like, I don't know, higher power guidance, divine guidance. Within that week of me starting that prayer and like asking for guidance, I discovered this weird symptom, this very like not common symptom happening with my body that I didn't really think anything of. Turns out it was cancer. But the reason why I feel so lucky is because I asked for guidance. Things will happen in our lives that not even God is going to interfere with, but I was shown. I feel like I asked to be guided and they showed it to me. They said something is happening with your body and you need to see it. A week after I've got that symptom checked out, I also kind of dug back into our numbers in the business and realized that things were going awry. The state of affairs, things were not good. Things were bad. The money was bad. Okay, I really don't mean to throw anyone under the bus about this, but I think I had just delegated out and been like, cool, you can handle like the accounts, which is such a mistake on my part. Like, this is my business. I need to keep eyes on the most important things, no matter whose job it is to manage it. It's my job to know what's happening in my business. And I didn't want to do it. And it really bit me in the ass because by the time I saw what was happening, oh my God. I mean, thank God I found out when I did, because at that point we had like maybe a 3 or 4 week runway, which in a healthy business, you should have like a 6 month runway. And what I mean by runway is basically like, how much safety net do you have? If your business didn't make any sales at all, like if the sales were just turned off, you could still operate for 6 months. We had like 3 weeks, which means if we had a bad month, we were like, so now I had cancer. I was co parenting my 7-year-old, and I was super stressed about the survival of this business. That all sounds like a nightmare. And when I tell people, they look horrified. But I'm so quick to follow that up with all the magic that happened in that time period. So, divine guidance was so obvious that I actually started writing down the things that were happening because I did not want to forget like all of these very obvious signs from the universe. And it literally happened in that season, that like super difficult season where I was like, my marriage was done and my life was completely changing. I started writing all of the things down that happened. Let's see. Okay. May 2023, I asked for protection over my business, my health, my family. Within 2 weeks, all that shit was answered. Like, I knew what I had to look at. And then when I was moving out of my apartment in April, oh, this was crazy. So I needed to find an apartment, but obviously, like, Seattle's very expensive. I'm on a budget. I looked at a few apartments and I made a decision like, this is the apartment building. This is the one. Like, I loved it. I wanted to live here, but it was pretty pricey. I remember I like visited 2 units. The unit that I really wanted was like $3,800. And I was like, no way in hell. And then the unit that I could afford, which was like 24, that's like the most that I wanted to pay. The unit that was 24, it was too small. And so I was like, you know what? Let me think about it and let me come back. I came back a week later and the same leasing agent was there. He printed out the listings for that day, like the new prices. I guess they change every week. And he was like, "Okay, let me just print out the new listings." And he comes back and he's literally like, "Whoa, do you remember that corner unit that you really liked last week? It just came up today as like 24 or something, like the exact price that I needed it to be." And he was like, "I am not even kidding. Like, I've never seen it this price before. And if you don't take it, like, I will." I was like, "Thank you. Thanks. Thank you." Like, that's what I needed, and that's what I asked for, and the universe answered. So June was actually the month that I got my diagnosis. Like I had to go through, like a mammogram and then a biopsy. And then I got a surprise call and she was like, it's cancer. And I was like, excuse me. Obviously, I took that day off and just like cried and like called my mom. The crazy thing is, the day that I got my diagnosis was the exact day that my mom had planned to be in town visiting me. She lives in Utah. I'm in Seattle. Like she comes maybe once a year, twice a year. And it just happened to be on the same day. That can't even be a coincidence. That is the universe, like literally conspiring to help us here. Like, I fully believe that that was planned for us. And so, because she was able to fly in that day, she was able to come to my oncology appointments. And like, I just had her. Like, she's my person, and I had her. So, whoa, that was like, that like blew my mind. And then gradually during that time, I really started seeing angel numbers everywhere. And like, I hesitate because I'm also very skeptical of angel numbers. I think I still am, even though I really believe it. But it's not something I was looking for. I wasn't looking for that sign, but it just was so obviously popping up everywhere. I ended up moving out of my apartment like 6 months after I started that lease because I was moving back into this townhouse that we owned. The moving guys came late and, they were like, oh, sorry. Okay. The starting time is 11:11. And so 11:11 especially, like I would see repeating numbers all the time, but especially 11:11 would just come up everywhere. Like ones were just everywhere. When I had my surgery in January, I had to get a partial lumpectomy. Luckily, they didn't have to take out much, thank God, because I don't have a lot to spare. But I remember like waking up from that surgery, waking up out of the anesthesia. Okay, I've told like two people this in my life, but I distinctly remember coming out of that surgery and for a moment, like feeling the presence of something there with me. I distinctly remember waking up out of the anesthesia, and I know this sounds crazy, but like I felt a presence there with me, and it wasn't my ex who was also sitting there. It was like something else that was next to my bed just for a moment, but I saw it and I felt it. And then the nurse comes in, and the first thing I ask for some reason is like, what time is it? She's like, oh, it's 1:11. And just like things like that would happen. I'm not kidding, like all the time. I would have some sort of, like crazy experience or like or like I would have a really like profound meditation, and then my phone would ring and the number on the phone was just like 11111111. It just, and even now, like I will just be pulled to look at the time exactly at 11:11. Like I'll catch both the 11:11s, I'll catch the 1:11s, I'll catch the 3:33s, the 4:44s. Like I'm not joking, like multiple times a day. There's something that is guiding me to that number as a reminder of the fact that I am being guided all the time. I can feel the pull of like something just like turning my head to look at the time, and it's 11:11. Dude, I feel like I'm trying to convince you because, like, yeah, we're all on a circadian rhythm. It's probably like easy to, no, I never land on 11, 12, 11, 13. It's 11, 11 all the time. And I'm not a routine person. I don't do anything at the same time every day. You know what I mean? I sleep at different times every day. I eat at different times every day. I do different things every single day. Like, and I had to meet Shannon at this bookstore. Like, we were doing like a coffee shop thing. I didn't even realize it was 11:11. But as I was driving there, I was driving to Elliott Bay in Capitol Hill in Seattle. And in order to get there from my house, I literally have to pass 11th Street, 11th Ave. I'm realizing that the date is 11/11 as I'm driving through 11th Street, 11th Ave, and there's two signs, on one on the left and one on the right of 11th, that I'm literally driving through on the 11/11 portal. Okay, that is the peak of my insanity with this. I just have to say it and put it out there. Like, portals are metaphorically like doorways to something new. And like, I won't go into details, but that bookstore trip was definitely like a marker of a huge change with something. It was definitely a portal with very real 3D events. And then I literally went through a portal. Like, I literally went through two 11s. I am speaking my truth, and that is what it is. Take it or leave it. I know it sounds crazy. I usually read the room before I start talking about any of this, but right now I'm the only one in the room. So, okay, so I'm done with angel numbers. Getting back to Cancer. Yes, it seems horrific, but the magic of the universe doing its thing, making sure that I knew that I was being guided. The fact that I asked for guidance, and because I asked for it, I was able to catch it early. The type of breast cancer that I was diagnosed with also like had medications that were developed very recently that were just super effective at treating this type of cancer. So my oncologist was literally, as soon as I met her, she was like, "You're going to be fine." And I feel like doctors don't say that unless they really, really mean it, you know? So I only feared for my life for one day. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, chemo is just something I have to get through. And like, I got through it. It was fine. And like, I think like my tendency to just not worry about things and like fall into things helped me, because I didn't really go into the cancer journey with a ton of anxiety. There was a lot of uncertainty and it was uncomfortable, but I still kind of was at peace with it and knew that it was just going to be a difficult chapter, but I would be okay. And I was so grateful that I was gonna be okay that I didn't even care. Like, I'm gonna crush it. I was actually like, I'm gonna crush chemo. I'm gonna be so good at it. Which I was. I was for the first two. And then like towards the end, you're like, oh shit. Like, you feel it. I was also super grateful that, like, even though it happened right on the heels of like me and my partner splitting up, like, it was so fresh that we hadn't filed any paperwork or anything yet. And so when this happened, like, he was one of the first people I told. We don't want a bad relationship. Like, we want to have a good relationship because we know that we're going to be in each other's lives forever. So he was like still my emergency contact, and he was like super supportive. And luckily, I was still covered by his insurance, which was like top notch. I feel like I got the best care that I possibly could have gotten. Everyone who works in oncology, the doctors, the nurses, are literal angels. I don't even have words to express like how taken care of I felt throughout the whole thing. I was also at that point still exploring my relationship with psychedelics a lot. Therapy is so valuable, but I feel like sometimes it can only get you with certain things to the point of understanding intellectually. Psychedelics can really allow you to understand it in a very embodied way, understand something to the core. I remember I had a really profound psychedelic journey right before my diagnosis, and I did another one right after my diagnosis. And they were literally top five most profound moments of my life. Out of my top five, one of those is having my child, and three of those are psychedelics. It just gave me so much healing. I'm going on such a tangent, but this was such a big part of that year because of one of those journeys I did, the one that I did after my diagnosis. It prompted me to heal this really broken relationship with my dad. And that was like a really beautiful thing that happened. It also gave me a lot of insight into why I got cancer. Like, I fully know why I got cancer. I just know it in my gut. Okay, I will tell you, maybe I'll cut it out, but no, no, I can't. I can't. It's a whole nother can of worms. But just know that I fully know. I fully know why I got cancer. That took over my life from basically for an entire year, from my diagnosis in May of 2023 to finishing radiation in April of 2024. And during that time, I really just had to take it day by day. That was it. I had to really slow down and obviously like stop all the fundraising stuff, which was a blessing in disguise because I could have gotten myself in a situation that I would have sorely regretted. I had been warned by other, founders that had gone that route of like, listen, they don't call it golden handcuffs for a reason. So I feel like I really dodged a bullet there. Yeah, divine guidance was my big win for that year. And obviously, the big challenge was cancer and being forced to slow down. My takeaway from that year is really just like, I think success looks different for everyone. And really, really take the time to understand what success means for you, what's important for you. Listen to your instincts about your body, about your life, about the vision that you have for your life. Like, use your instincts to really authentically understand what is for you and what isn't. Okay, so that was 2023. Okay, let's get into 2024. I might have to speed through this because I'm getting very tired. Like I said, we were in a bad financial place. So during chemo, I was like even more stressed about the business than the chemo, than the cancer. But luckily, holiday season rolls around. Like end of 2023, I was like, we just have to make it to holiday season. We just have to make it to holiday season. And then like it'll give us a little breathing room. So at the start of 2024, I was like, okay, we can take a breather for a second and like, I'm about to be out of this cancer stuff. I had surgery in October, I had radiation in January, and I finished radiation in April, again, Aries season. And literally the day after I finished radiation, I flew my ass to China to visit all of my manufacturers for the first time, which was huge. And I didn't really realize that radiation is like, it feels very easy while you're going through it, but then you feel the side effects after you finish it. So my shit was like, it was rough in China, but I was happy to be there and I was happy to spend my birthday there. I literally spent my birthday there and it was like the best decision I made. I'm not really a birthday person anyway, so usually I don't do anything, but I ended up spending it with one of the owners of the factories and she was the one that was like, most similar. She was the factory owner that was like most similar to me. Like we were the same age. We were both mothers, business owners. It was like I met my cousin. Like, we celebrated my birthday. Like that was also the first time I was meeting my production manager, Kim, who had been working for me for years, but she was based in the Philippines. So she came and met me in China, but she left. She left before my birthday. I ended up celebrating my birthday with my factory owner cousin. And it was just such a memorable birthday. Like I will remember my 39th birthday for my whole life because I ended up eating dinner at her house with her two young daughters and like eating the food that her mother had cooked for us. And they got me a little cake, and the kids were so cute. I was like, what is happening right now? Like, I just felt so at home though. And like, I already had developed this bond with this factory owner and her friend that were like, like treating me so well. And we like went and got massages, and we were having like yummy dinners every night, and like just chatting about like being parents and like having a business and like just stupid shit too. And then we would be crying the next minute. It was just a really beautiful experience of meeting someone for the first time who I've known for years, but like was only just meeting for the first time in real life and feeling just so at home with them. Anyways, that trip was amazing. I traveled everywhere. I was so goddamn tired. As soon as I got back, I was on one. Like my whole team can vouch. My energy had rebounded, but I was like back at work and my mind was just like ticking. I remember I came back from China, and then like pretty much right away, Sephora hit us up and wanted to bring us in, but we were kind of on a tight timeline. So right away, like we had to jump into getting that together. It's a lot of work to, onboard onto with a retailer like that. So it was, yeah, it's like China, then Sephora, and then like our finances were like stabilizing a little bit more. I was actually feeling much more empowered because it was really the first time in a very, very, very embarrassingly long time that I had sat down with an entire year's worth of P&Ls and statements. And I was just like, what the fuck happened? And I was so nervous sitting down for that because obviously, like, I wasn't confident in my ability to just like make sense of numbers. But I totally did. Like, I totally came out with such clarity and like understanding of what had happened. And so that was really empowering of like, okay, I actually do understand this business. And my gut feeling about this business was kind of like confirmed in the numbers. So the next step was like, okay, well, how do I fix that? Which was much trickier because I didn't know like financial fundamentals. I thought I did. I did not. I started working with another coach that spring, and his like thing was like looking at the numbers. And so that was like such a help for that season where he really helped me figure out what that next step was. Like, okay, I see what happened. And now, like, what do we do about it? Because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't even have the language to ask the questions to figure out what I didn't know. And so I remember those first like conversations about the finances were so hard because I'm like, dude, I need time to like wrap my brain around this in the context of my business. Anyway, it did end up sinking in, and it was the most empowering thing to finally understand um, like what actually needed to happen. And I understood like the levers in my business to really move in a direction of financial health. I learned that over the past like year or two, our operating expenses had gone way up and our margins were shrinking. Our revenue was still growing. It has always grown over all of these years, but the balance of it changes. And just recently, I figured out that this is almost always the case, that when you scale your business, this is like one of the biggest challenges is that your operating expenses become way more like payroll and just operations. I just didn't know that that's what was happening and what to do about it. I was spending way too much on payroll. I was spending way too much on creative and marketing. And we had landed in a place of negative profitability. We were losing money. We were making more revenue, but at the end of the year, we were negative, basically. What I came out of that season learning was that one, the reason why our P&Ls couldn't necessarily paint the full picture was because like we had a bookkeeper and a CPA, but they weren't able to structure our finances in a way that truly told the story of how healthy our business was. Secondly, we had to raise our prices by like 10% just to give us a little bit of wiggle room. We had to rein in our spending and really look at our creative and marketing costs. And then I really needed to hire an operations manager who could really get into the nitty gritty of this, which I was not capable of. At some point, my coach would like, we would be going over, some spreadsheets, and then like my eyes would glaze over and I just could not go any further. So I started looking for an operations manager. Pretty quickly after I posted the job opening, Lindsay hit me up, who is now my ops manager. And here is another huge coincidence, but not really a coincidence. So Lindsay had worked for me in my previous business. She was like my right-hand person in my previous business. And then when I closed that business, we parted ways. And in that time, she worked at this startup and then she moved to like across the country and was a part of her own like startup. And she had really like leveled up her operation skills. I had also really leveled up in these other ways. So like we hadn't really kept in touch, but we jumped on a call. God, I should have split this up into like more videos because there's so much. But I really want to tell you this like insane thing. So we hopped on this Zoom call, right? And that day I decided to work from home and it was laundry day. I just had like t-shirts left. So I put on this shirt that I hadn't ever worn. I got it for free from this like mushroom company that I bought stuff from. Anyway, so as soon as we hop on the call, she looks at my shirt and she recognizes it because she was working for a printing press that literally printed that shirt. And somehow it found its way to me from the East Coast to the West Coast. And I happened to wear it on that day for the first time when I was talking to her. Dude, that is crazy. That is crazy. And I remember like when she started work and we were just like chatting, she was like, yeah, I was looking for a sign to move back to Seattle, and that was it. That was the sign. Like it still gives me chills. So Lindsay joins the team, and we didn't want to just depend on the fact that we used to work together, and it was a good relationship. Like it had been a long time. It had been years, and we could be in very different places. So we both kind of treated it like a brand new thing. but very quickly, like things just clicked. She was just exactly what I needed. We were so different in the ways that we needed to be different, and we were so similar in the ways that we needed to be similar. Whenever we were talking about things, like we just understood each other, but I would come at it from a certain perspective and she would come at it from a certain perspective that really balanced each other out. Luckily, that was just the perfect thing that needed to happen. And I was so grateful to have her on the team. She started that summer. And I mean, basically, like by the time, she kind of like got up to speed, we were getting prepared to go into holiday season. So she was really just like occupied with kind of still learning the business and also like just putting out the fires. There were some things that like needed immediate attention. Um, and and yeah, like she has played such an important role in our recovery phase. We went from being negative in 2020, what was it? 2023, like deeply negative, to positive in 2024, which like we were barely positive, but to have made that big of a gain was like such a win. That was my big win for the year, was just getting our profitability back to green and hiring Lindsay and really like building that financial knowledge for myself. Once I learned that piece of it, I felt like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. Like, I really know what I'm doing now. And like, this is a different game. Like, I'm playing a totally different game. It just so happened to be on the other side of cancer. There was like a pre cancer era and a post cancer era in so many ways, in like every aspect of my life and work. I think the big challenge of that year was actually like, okay, so 2024, I came back from cancer. I went to China. We did Sephora. I brought Lindsay on. Like we did all these things that I needed to do. And then once summer settled, and then once we were kind of settling into fall winter, and I was trying to get back into the day to day of the business, I was feeling very like kind of not lost, but it was just very difficult to kind of re-enter the business. And it totally makes sense because I pretty much had been gone for like 2 years. Meanwhile, like I had this amazing team who were able to like really keep it up, like keep the business running. And obviously, they had built their own ways of doing things. And some of it just didn't work for me. I understood I had been gone for a while. So I definitely tried hard to kind of like work within this like kind of new system, but it was not working for me. And that became just a growing problem and a growing tension in the business that obviously needed to be resolved. Like there was only one thing that was going to happen because at the end of the day, it's my business and it has to work for me. But it was a really hard period because that meant a lot of things had to change. I was really apprehensive to do that because I really wanted to take care of everyone on the team and respect like everything that they had done. But I had this newfound confidence of what I brought to the table. I had to trust that. So I tried my hardest to like make things work, make things be able to like kind of grow together. And at some point, it's just like there were things that needed to change. So that was a really painful, difficult half of the year. The big takeaway from that year, I call it the recovery year. It's just, oh my gosh, like I'm exhausted talking about it. Imagine going through it like every year. It's just like life continues to open up in these ways that you will least expect. And obviously, when the great things happen, it's great. But when the hard things happen, there's always an opportunity to learn something. There is always an opportunity for growth. You just have to be willing to see it that way. Okay, I'm going to end there because I literally have no more capacity to tell you about 2025. So that will be for another time. I hope hearing this journey has also been helpful or enlightening or entertaining for anyone who wants to do something similar one day or just starting a business. Or if you're in your 20s and you're still trying to like figure out what you want to do, it sounds like a lot, but honestly, it's so worth it. It is so worth it. Honestly, I just turned 40 and I feel like my life is just now starting. I was actually 35 when I started Chunks. I feel like that was 35 was actually the age where I woke up. I woke up to my life. And 2023, that whole challenge of going through cancer, at that point, I was 39. 39 was an initiation, like truly. It was like, okay, I woke up and now you know who you are. Now it's beginning. And it's crazy to say that, like I feel like life just started and there's just so much more to enjoy and experience. Anyway, let me know what you thought of this episode. Shoot me a message, DM me. Let me know what you want to hear more of. And I will see you next time.